Good afternoon from Caesars in Las Vegas. I'm Ryan Green. Welcome to Data Cloud Now. I'm joined by Jeff Frazier, Head of Global Public Sector at Snowflake. Jeff, it is such a pleasure to have you on the program. To start with, you are responsible for public sector organizations at Snowflake. What are you hearing, and what are some of the challenges being discussed?
Well, thank you for having me. At Snowflake, the public sector is one of our top industries, and it's one of the key priority for us. If you think about it, every morning about 800 million people around the world wake up and they go off to serve, protect, or educate within their communities. So we take that very humbly here, and we are very committed to that purpose. So I just met with an Australian delegation and talking with them what we're hearing.
Right.
And talking with them and said, in the many years that I've been serving in the public sector, I have never seen a technology category move this fast. And as such, with that speed comes some complexity and comes some expectation. And so what we're seeing is the emergence of this data era. And if you think about it, and we were all agreeing with the Australians, it was really fun. And if you think about it, it's driven by really three major forces. The first one is advances in technology that reduce cost and they simplify the desire to modernize. There's a big push and a big movement in modernization. Second are the citizens' expectation, which are like consumer-like expectations of anything as a service.
Right.
And so that trend is coming and forcing the change. And the third is the fast-moving cross-cloud government data sharing. So the tectonic shift that we're seeing in the category is going to be around data sharing with their mission partners and their ecosystem partners. And that's the big shift that we're seeing, and it's driven by that force.
You know, this feels like the trifecta.
It is.
You know, Jeff, as you think about use cases within the public sector, how are clients using Snowflake now, and what impact is it having?
You should think about the condition that we're in or that we're emerging into as a modern data experience. This is a cloud platform where institutions can actually unite their data from silos into one place and make meaningful use of it. So if I were to, and not give up control, right? That's a big issue.
Important.
Not to give up control or security. So those are the barriers that we're seeing people who always have an objection. It's like, well, how do I do this? I've been trying to solve the information sharing challenge in government for many, many years, and we are on the cusp of it. So it's a huge shift. And so wherever, if you think about it, if you just have, wherever your users are and your data are, Snowflake takes the compute to the data. And as such, it's a cost-simple a way of preparing it and to make it useful. So fundamentally, when we bring the compute to the data in a cost-efficient and a simple way, it answers two very, very important mission questions. The first one is, does the data help people do their jobs without having to be an analyst? And two, can they trust it? And those are the key issues that we look for. Therefore, if I can organize institutionally, if I can organize my data in one source of truth, I'm able to package it and share it with mission ecosystem partners. And I think that's the shift that we're seeing. And I'm seeing it across all sectors of government. I'm seeing it with state of California when they had COVID-19 and when they responded to that and the shock that took place in California. We saw the state of California was able to implement and look at citizens and connect need with vaccinations. They were able to track and look into supply chains the way they never had.
We're talking about real-time examples happening right now.
And I think the real key issue on that was that it happened, it took weeks to implement. It was a modern data architecture, took weeks to implement, and it normally would take you months, if not years.
Right.
So I'm seeing that across all categories in government. Like CMS, the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare, if you look at what they did, they were able to reduce the shock to the system. So they provide health care to 1 in 4 Americans in the United States. And what happened was, as a result of COVID, the US government put billions of dollars into the system, and it shocked the healthcare infrastructure. And as such, you can see fraud and improper use of funds becoming a real issue. So what CMS rightfully did, and good stewardship and governance for them, they were able to take the data and put it into build a modern data architecture, and able to stop and look at and affect those improper payments. So the big part of that was they were able to do that in the speed and time it took. And they wouldn't be able to do that without a modern data architecture. So we're seeing that across transportation and traffic safety. I'm seeing it in K-12 and higher ed with outcomes for students, and I'm seeing it with alumni outcomes and fundraising. So It's an exciting category. We're in the early era of data, and there's a whole lot more to come.
You know, it's an exciting time. Listen, we're at Snowflake Summit right now. You hear the sounds and noise, so much happening here at Snowflake Summit. You know, I want to take, one step back, if you don't mind, Jeff. When you consider barriers to progress in the public sector, like legacy policy systems and behaviors, how do you think Snowflake can best serve as a change agent for government?
Well, the three shifts that I talked about with the three trends that are making this move. Look, there's a coming revolution here, honestly, and you got to look at it in this way. There is a revolution in converting time, cost, from legacy systems into rapid and responsive and iterative services. It's really important to talk about the speed in which and the latency reduction in which that takes place. So this is a shift we're seeing. Look, at its core, the data cloud, it drives cost efficiency, simplicity, and extends a horizon of knowledge. And that's the real key piece here. And so when I look at a modern data architecture in our data cloud, this is what drives value. It drives public value. And so therefore, if agencies and their ecosystem partners and the institutions are able to capture that, they need to rethink a few things. And what we're seeing, and they need to rethink their data sharing governance and their covenants. So the first is information sharing agreements, the legal agreements among the agencies themselves. That's where it starts. That's where it starts, right? That's where the innovation takes place. The second would be around consent rights and privacy, and rethink those and and data ownership and what that looks like. And then the third is to rethink the classification types of data. So national governments can share with national governments in ways that they hadn't previously, and what they all aspire to do. So for us to be good stewards, it's a serious priority for us. We work very closely with our partners, we work very closely with our institutions, and we work very closely with our public leaders to illuminate and remove those barriers. It's a key priority for us. And our Snowflake data cloud provides the simple, secure, and cost-efficient path to modernization for public institutions. We will deliver on that promise. That's our brand promise, and it's a huge priority for us.
It's incredible talking with you about the journey to this point, but I have to ask, now as we look towards the future, how can Snowflake improve how government provides services for their citizens? We're talking about millions or billions of people.
Yeah, this is the shift. So in the future, the government service delivery won't be an either-or dichotomy.
Right.
What it'll be is, that's the pressure. So that's the pressure that comes to government saying, hey, look, I need you to give us a service because we have a need. And that's always been one way and reciprocal way. What you're going to see in the future, this is the huge shift, and what you're going to see in the future is, think of the government as an orchestrator of services.
Interesting.
Think about that. So think of it as the government is the largest producer and consumer of data in the world. And so if you think about them at the center of this and how they can orchestrate, just like a marketplace, a natural marketplace, if you think about that, there's so much untapped value in that. So you're going to see, utilizing a modern data cloud architecture, you're going to see citizens become at the center of designing and delivering those services. So it looks like this, because it reduces feuds, it reduces vendor lock, it reduces costs, but if you look at it, our promise and our vision of a modern data experience is to enable the citizens through the government data orchestration to design and deliver by, with, and for people, as opposed to the current way in which the government to and for. So fundamentally, citizens will be at the center of designing the services and delivering on those services. And this is our promise, this is our brand promise, and we will deliver on that promise. It's an exciting time.
Talk about exciting indeed. Jeff, I have to ask, what would you ask these governments with the opportunity? What would you say to them?
I do. I ask a fundamental question. If you had unlimited data resources, what would you want to know?
Wow.
What would you want to discover? If you think about it.
Talk about big picture.
It's just, what would you want to know?
Right.
And because you get so caught up in the mundane, you get so caught up in trying to connect value to this and this. But if you pan back and get up on the balcony and you say, look, what is it that we really want to discover? What is it we want to know? And is it possible? And What we're seeing now with the shift in data and the delivery of data and how it's organized and the promise that we bring, you're going to start realizing that promise. And it's the most exciting time in the years I've been in public sector, and I'm super thrilled to be part of it, the journey, and I'm super thrilled to see and understand the outcomes that we're going to produce. Well, thank you for having me.
Jeff, thank you so much for the
appreciate it.
insight and exciting next
Yeah.
chapter. For those who are tuning in, if you feel like you're missing out on Summit keynotes and more, make sure to catch the on-demand replay at snowflake.com/summit/livestream to explore all the newly announced product innovations. Jeff, it's been an absolute pleasure. My name is Ryan Green. Thank you for tuning in to Data Cloud Now. I'll see you soon.